Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Locker Room. I'm your host, Tommy Tellerino, alongside my co-host here, Jordan Navarro, and we have another great episode scheduled for you. Jordan, I'm home right now, as you can see,
Yeah, I see
behind
the
home
fin.
plate.
Yeah, I see the Fenway in the background, man.
Yeah, it's your cousin from Boston.
I
I got my chowder and beans here. I'm all ready for the game one.
got Smart Pock over there.
I got a smart pack. Me and Johnny down the harbor, parked it, unparked it, did it all. You know,
Happy to be back, man.
yeah.
Didn't close me off last week. I mean, what is this about?
I had to
Could have
have
called me.
hey, no, I had plans with Zach. They fell through. I didn't know if you're going to be available in a 10-minute time span. So
Hey, I'm always ready. I'm like Batman. Just send up the bat signal. I'm there.
you're American. You're always free.
Yeah, I am always free.
That's
That's right.
right, baby. But you're here this week. We got some great topics this week. We're going to change it up a little bit. Start out with the MLB, sprinkle in the NFL for you as always, and then with some NBA. So I'll jump right into it. ALDS and NLDS just wrapped up, so we got our matchups. The ALCS starts tonight with the Red Sox traveling to Houston for game one. NLCS, does this I start tomorrow night?
I do believe it starts tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, it will be the Dodgers traveling to Atlanta, which everyone thought that'd be the other way around. The Dodgers winning 105 games, but
Hey, if you want tickets, you can find them for about $200. I was looking at them. You get your second row in left field. I mean,
hey,
bada boom, bada bing.
yeah,
That's not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Tickets at Fenway were about the same price. I want to say for the Yankees game, it was like 200 for standing area.
Yeah, of course. Playing a AAA team, gotta be kind of cheap.
But yeah. So let's talk about them Sox.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Woo.
I know. I'm sorry, but we got to do it. We got to recap the game. I know this is hurting for you, but
It's okay. I'll be unbiased.
but last time I talked about games 1 and 2, and I want your opinion before I go to game 3. Was it cocky on Randy Arozarena's part stealing home when they were already up 4?
Um, yeah, kind of. It's one of those unwritten rules of baseball, right? Where you don't steal third when you're like up 4 or 5. But it was exciting. I mean, I would want him to do it again 100 times out of 100. It was exciting, but I don't know if it was cocky. I just feel like it was one of those, he's making a play, he can do it, so why not, right? So, but it was definitely one of those like unwritten rules. I'm sure there was like some 65-year-old boomer who was shaking his cane at the TV screen, who was upset. But I mean, we need personality in baseball, so I'm all for it.
I will say I do think it woke up the Red Sox.
Yeah, I do think they got a little peota after that.
Game 2, they just started playing like they're on steroids, all of them. But game 3, it was a close one. It was one of the wildest endings in the postseason ever with the controversial call with the Kevin Kiermaier ground rule double. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the two teams battled back and forth for almost 5 hours, or I think it was more than 5 hours this game. Wander Franco and Rosarena let it come back in the 8th inning. They helped send the game into extras, and then neither squad could get the game going from the 10th to the 12th. But the 13th, that's when it all just unraveled.
Yeah.
The whole game, I'll say, not even both sides, but even with the umps. So it starts out, Nelson Cruz strikes out. Yandy Diaz hits a single. Randy Rosarena gets out. And now we have Kevin Kiermaier up to bat, gets a hold of one, hits it off the right field fence, bounces on the ground, hits Hunter Renfroe, goes over the wall. And because the ball was never cleanly fielded, they said, all right, it's a ground rule double, meaning Kevin Kiermaier, you get second. Yandy Diaz, you're not scoring since you started out at first. What are your thoughts on this rule?
It was kind of weird. Obviously, I didn't watch that game. I wasn't lucky enough to, but you just sent me the highlight. I watched it before this, and In that situation, I feel like Yandy definitely should be allowed to score. I feel like that was kind of a turning point in that game, a huge one. It's just it's just one of those rules where I feel like it's just kind of overlooked by baseball, but I feel like that rule should definitely be changed. He has to be allowed to score there.
Yeah, Jeff Passan, he posted the actual rule on Twitter. I want to say like moments after it happened. So the umps did get the call right, but I do agree that the rule needs to be updated. I think it needs to be updated to where the runner gets two bags from where they are.
Yeah.
So he wasn't at third, but he was pretty close to third. And if the Red Sox were going to prevent a home run, or I'm sorry, another run, they would have had an amazing play to gun him out at home.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like it was pretty clear to see that he was probably going to score there, unless it was just an absolute laser of a throw. So I feel like that we just got robbed of either a great play or like a Rays run.
yeah, I do think it would have been one run, but ultimately the next guy up was, let me look real quick. Zuzino. He strikes out swinging to end the inning. So ultimately they would have had one run, and then the bottom half of the inning, Christian Vasquez ends the game with a 2-run walk-off home run. So ultimately, in my opinion, I don't think it would have mattered too much. Although there's momentum shift, but they still would have
Yeah,
had to score another run.
that'd have been my argument. It's just the whole momentum of the thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, Zanino was what 0 for 6 in this game. I
Yeah.
mean, like he was doing nothing at the plate. But definitely one of those things where people will argue momentum, and there's two camps of thought there. People that don't believe momentum is real, which I think is kind of absurd. It's kind of like clutch. Like obviously, it's not really a stat you can keep, and it's not obtainable. Like it's not a material thing you can count. But there's definitely momentum factor, especially in a sport like baseball. You get the bats going, and they say good hitting is contagious. So, but like you said, I mean, he had a 2-run homer to walk it off. So, yeah. I mean, in the long run, in hindsight, it didn't have an effect on the game, but it definitely probably swayed some momentum the Red Sox way.
Yeah, like you said, you can see momentum, you can see it, but you can't track it. It's a stat you can't track.
Yeah.
And I do think you could see it did take some lightning out of the Rays.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the only reason why they lost. You know what I mean?
I agree with that 100%. Also, the next game they played was a game 4. I
Yeah.
mean, the score was like 6-5, right? So it wasn't
Yeah.
like they just had the win taken out of their sails. Like they came back and competed in that next game as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up game 4. So Red Sox actually they stormed out to a 5-0 start or in the third inning. So they had a 5-run lead for most of the game. And then it was 5-1 heading into the 6th, 5-3 heading into 8th. And then the Rays tie the game with 3 straight hits to start the 8th. Randy Arozarena knocked in the game tying run. And then Garrett Whitlock for the Red Sox. He entered the game as a reliever with a go-ahead run on second base, nobody out in the 8th, and he would record 3 straight outs to keep the game tied. And then the next frame, 3 straight outs, and the Red Sox responded in the 9th. Christian Vasquez, that hero the other night, he gets on base. Pinch hit hitter Travis Shaw reaches on an infield single from, I want to say it was G-Man Choi was at first, and he bobbles the ball.
Yep.
Shaw gets on, and then Vasquez gets to third, and it puts runners on the corner for Kiki Hernandez, the hottest hitter on the planet right now. All he had to do was send a sac fly into left field, and he did. Pinch runner Danny Santana came in to score. Red Sox ultimately win 6-5. They move on to their second ALCS appearance in 4 years. And honestly, this was an exciting series. This had some hitting. Pitching, it wasn't great for pitching, but we saw some electric home runs. We saw some electric hits. We saw some players stand out in this series.
Yeah, I think What's weird to me about this series is from a Yankees perspective, right? Is everyone knew that the Red Sox bullpen wasn't that great, that their idea was, get their starters to give them like six. Then you go to Garrett Whitlock and you go to Matt Barnes, right? That was kind of the thought process there. And Garrett Whitlock has been a godsend for them. He's been great all season, and he's been one of the major reasons that the Red Sox have had enough pitching to get to where they're at right now. From the Rays' perspective, I always questioned whether they were going to have the rotation to actually make it to the World Series because they have so many young guys in that rotation. And I think if they have a Tyler Glasnow in this series, this might end up, with the Rays winning. But I think that the Rays are known for their pitching. They're known for their defense. And honestly, those are kind of the things that let them down in this series, surprisingly. So it's just kind of weird that the way it turned out. I think everyone knew it was going to be an offensive series just because both of the both of their pitching staffs were kind of shaky coming in, but I'm just surprised that the Rays just got let down as bad as they did by things that are considered like their strength.
Honestly, too, they're hitting in the series, apart from like Franco and Rosarena, a lot of them weren't connecting to the ball.
Yeah.
Like we saw players not even get hits in the series, which that kind of shocked me just because the Rays teed off on the Red Sox all year, like everyone around the lineup.
Yep.
And one thing for that helped Boston is Nick Pivetta stepped up in that game 3, and he pitched, I want to say 5 innings as a relief pitcher, and he had some huge strikeouts to end some innings.
I actually think that might have been the best postseason pitching performance that Boston has had in a minute since their last World Series. But even before that, I mean, you could argue since like 2004.
And then Rodriguez, though, the game after, he had like 6 strikeouts.
Yeah, the Boston Red Sox pitching staff stepped up in a huge way in this series.
And in order for them to be able to compete with Houston, I do think their pitching is going to have to perform like this almost every game.
Yep.
Because that Houston hitting is no joke. I'll let you go into a little bit more with the Houston White Sox series if you want.
So the White Sox, it was on, I do believe that their game 4 or game 4 got postponed, right? It was on Monday. It got moved to that Tuesday. And that game was that was a blowout from the start pretty much. The Houston Astros ended up taking that game 10-1. Lost in that is that the White Sox did actually put together 7 hits, but they just couldn't get anybody in. They left they're 0-2 with runners in scoring position. They left 8 men on base. Carlos Rondon, who, he's kind of a dark horse pick to win the Cy Young once his season kind of got it rolling after that no-hitter. He couldn't do anything. Michael Kopech, who's been a relief ace for them, couldn't do anything. And then they just had to like kind of piece that game together, but their bullpen just let them down. And like you said, the Astros just hit people around. Jose Altuve went 3 for 5. He had 4 runs. Michael Brantley went 3 for 6. Correa went 2 for 4. Just the entire lineup just batted around. And I mean, it shows how dominant they are. And Lance McCullers, he didn't have to do much. He only pitched 4 innings, but he did just enough, and their bullpen took care of the rest. And that's kind of the question we had about Houston, right? Coming into the playoffs, was their bullpen going to be legit enough? Because, they don't have the ace. They don't have their Verlander this year, and Greinke's taking a step back. But all their guys are like solid 3s or solid 2s. They have enough starting pitching that if their bullpen is ace level, then they're fine. And I think that's what they showed in game 4. And then they, obviously they go on and win that series 3-1. And that was a clinching game, and they just dominated the White Sox. They were in just a completely different class.
Now, do you think this Houston pitching will be able to dominate like they did in the series against the White Sox? Because the Red Sox hitting it's better than the White Sox. I don't know by how much, but it's definitely way better than the White Sox.
I think the Red Sox are way more patient at the plate. And I think the White Sox kind of got outside themselves. They have a lot of young guys on that team, and this is a lot of their guys' first playoff experience. I don't actually, did they make the playoffs last year?
I believe so because it was an expanded format, so they ended up.
Yeah. Well, we'll say real playoffs with
Yeah.
fans, real playoff experience. So I feel like they just got outside themselves. I know Luis Robert had a decent series. Tim Anderson had a good series. Jose Abreu did Jose Abreu things, and then Gavin Sheets was, he stepped up. But the rest of their lineup was pretty lackluster. Also, their defense was not the greatest this series, and their pitching let them down. Like I said, the Astros just, and it pains me to say it, but they're hitting. They know when to turn it up, and they know how to get those guys in runners in scoring position. It might be the trash cans, man. They might have brought them back, but it's just crazy. I mean, like even in a game where they scored 10, they were still only 6 of 19 in runners in scoring position. That's like 300, but that could have been ridiculous. They could have slaughtered them. So,
I think some of them have hitting talents. We'll just never know with the trash cans, but this team knows when to get hot. They always get hot in the postseason, especially Correa, Bregman, and then Brantley came over a couple years ago. I do think we're in for a good ALCS. Last time these two teams met, Red Sox won in 6 games, but we could easily see the Houston Astros winning in 6 games in this one.
I do think that the Red Sox have gotten hot in the playoffs. I think beating the Yankees the way they did in the wild card really propelled them. And then obviously beating the Rays is huge. I mean, the Rays won 100 games. So, I think the Red Sox are hot. I also think the Astros are on fire. So this is going to be a really good series. As much as it pains me that both of these teams are in the ALCS, this will be a good series for baseball.
Any predictions for the outcome or?
The baseball fan in me, the unbiased baseball fan in me is going to say, I think it goes 7 games, but honestly, I think this is a true 50-50 toss up because I think both of these bullpens, the way they've been pitching are good. I think they kind of cancel each other out, but I think the Astros have the edge in the rotation in terms of depth. So I think if it goes 7, the Astros will take it. But honestly, if Boston goes out there and wins 2 or 3 games in a row, they could sweep them. I think Boston's that hot, but I don't think they can because I think the Astros are just as hot. But I think 7 games, Astros take it.
Yeah, I got to put my Red Sox bias aside and look at this. And Houston has the overall record against Boston this year for head-to-head. And for me, my deciding factor is Chris Sale because we saw Chris Sale get shelled game 2.
Yeah.
And he looked dominant when he came back in the regular season. But you look at most of his outings, and he's facing the Baltimore Orioles. So it's kind of like fair. You should be able to win those games. But I think Astros, they just have this much more on the Red Sox this season. And I have them winning in 6. I do think every game's going to be competitive, though. I don't think we'll see a blowout win on either side.
Yeah, I don't think they can blow the Red Sox out of the water. I think the Red Sox just have such good clutch hitting as well. They might be the only team in baseball when it comes to playoff time that can replicate the Astros' ability to hit with runners in scoring position. The Red Sox might also have trash cans. I don't know. We will have to wait and see.
I've been saying this for months. Don't let the Sox get hot. And they are hot. They're on fire right now. And I'm glad. But for the NLCS, it is Braves hosting the Dodgers. Braves ended up beating the Brewers 3-1, where we saw a pitching duel almost every night. In game 3, Ian Anderson for the Braves, 5 innings, 6 Ks, 3 hits. Freddie Peralta, 4 innings, 3 hits, 5 Ks. All runs came from the man, the myth, the legend, Jock Peterson with the pearls on. He doesn't take them off only when he sleeps. Only when he sleeps, he takes those pearls off.
Jocktober, baby.
October is real. 3-run home run for the Braves. Braves win game 3, 3-0. And then game 4, Freddie Freeman and Atlanta will get another chance to finish the job. And they ended up winning this one 5-4, finishing off the Brewers. Wasn't really a pitching duel this time, but we kind of saw Milwaukee put some hits together, but ultimately just wasn't enough. I do feel like they will be back. I think they're 1 or 2 years out from making a real legit long run. But man, this Braves team.
Frederick.
But losing Acuna, losing Ozuna. I mean,
yeah, they have no right to be where they are right now.
Yeah.
But that team has just rallied, and they just look at that team in like June, right? Look at that Braves team in June.
hey,
Right after they lost Acuna to now, they look like two completely different teams. MV Free is in full effect, and he's got that team fired up.
Ready. One more series. That's all you need to get over.
I do agree with the Brewers take though. I actually think they're going to be a whole lot better next year. I think Christian Yelich has got to find out whatever is wrong with him, right? Because this lineup looks a whole lot different when Christian Yelich is actually an MVP caliber player. And for the past season and a half, he hasn't been that. So I think Christian Yelich, he's going to go in the offseason, figure out what's wrong with him. He doesn't have to be the player he was before, but he's got to be at least Miami Marlins Christian Yelich. And I think he can get back to that level. They definitely need to make some moves for some hitters, but I think they have one of the best rotations in baseball. So I think they have the pitching to get it done. They just got to find a little bit more offense. They got to find a couple pieces there. And I think they could do that this offseason. So I would take the Brewers as a team to get to the NLCS next year very easily. I would take that bet.
We've seen them go a couple years ago, and was it a Game 7 loss for the Dodgers?
I do believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I do think, if Yelich gets back to himself, that's a bat, it's going to help big time. But like you said, these games that they've lost were from big blows. Like the hitting, you just couldn't get the hitting down. I do think you just add a couple more hitters, and they'll be there next year.
I do agree. But moving on to the next series, the NLDS between the Dodgers and Giants, how we got here to the Dodgers being in the NLCS.
The
Dodgers. So let's take a step back and let's revisit game 4, shall we? This game can be characterized by the Giants pitching. Alex Wood, who is kind of a swing guy. He's not really a starter or a reliever. He kind of does both. He does what he's needed to do. Pitches 4 2/3 innings, strikes out 4, gave him 83 pitches to start, and did his job. I mean, he's going against Max Scherzer, right? Like the former team, or actually not former teammates. He was on the Dodgers. That's why I said that. But former Dodger, Alex Wood, goes against Max Scherzer, who's maybe the best pitcher in baseball. Max Scherzer in his own right pitched 7 innings, had 10 Ks, gave up 1 run, 3 hits, and the Giants outpitched Max Scherzer, Blake Trinan, and Kenley Jansen with Alex Wood, Tyler Rogers, Jake McGee, and Duvall out of the back end. Giants win this game 1-0 away. Just ridiculous. Ridiculous pitching performance out of the Giants to win this game. I mean, there's really nothing else to say about that game other than the Giants just dominated. Going into game 5. Actually, no, that was game 3. My bad. Going into game 4, the Dodgers, they came back strong. They were mad about getting beat 1-0, and they just batted around. They ended up winning that game 7-2. Anthony DeSclafani started for the Giants. He only pitched an inning and 2/3. So the story of that game is the Dodgers hitting. But on to the game that everyone's going to talk about is game 5. This game was really good. I watched it all. This game was close the entire time. It was 0-0 headed into the 6th. Top of the 6th, I want to say Corey Seager doubled to score the run. And then bottom of the sixth, Darren Ruff off of Julio Urias. He ends up hitting the homer to tie it. Stadium's going crazy. Oracle Park's getting loud. 1-1. They had George Kittle and Trey Lance there before, starting the Beat LA chant with DJ Jones. I mean, the whole city, I think the whole state of California was in Oracle Park. This game super tight. People were on, getting in scoring position. They weren't being able to do anything. The Giants left 6 on base. The Dodgers left 7. Dodgers were only 2 of 10 with runners in scoring position, and the Giants were 0-5. And going in to the top of the 9th, I want to say Duvall hits Turner, then Cody Bellinger, or not Cody Bellinger. Duvall hits Turner, Lux singles, and then Cody Bellinger with a rocket single to right, and he ends up scoring off of that. Justin Turner does. And they bring on Mad Max in the bottom of the 9th. The Giants, they get a blooper from Brandon Crawford in the left field. Chris Taylor didn't have to move to get it, but it was such a tough out because it looked like it was going to drop for a second, but it just kept carrying. And then Chris Bryant gets a hit. I think Mike Yastrzemski started this game. He got pinch hit for Austin Slater, I do believe. And then they brought in late night Lamont with Chris Bryant on base. And it looked like he hit a loud out off of Max Scherzer. It looked like he might have sent one. But it didn't go his way. He ends up striking out looking. And then Wilmer Flores gets a check swing call that is very questionable to end the game. And it's going to end up shrouding this series, sadly, that the ump made that call. He didn't go. I don't even think if he fully swings, I don't think you can make that call. I mean, this series was so good. You can't make a call like that to end it. But
yeah, I agree with you there. He wasn't even close to fully swinging. And it wasn't a strike anyway. I was very mad after watching that game just because I felt like we got robbed of an actual
ending.
Yeah.
And Wilmer Flores was like 0 for 17 against Max Scherzer in his career, but still, I mean, that's a redemption arc. That's a redemption arc. But just talking about the pitching a little bit, I don't want to overshadow this, but Logan Webb is the MVP of this NLDS on either team. I know the Dodgers won, but Logan Webb, this was his coming out party. He's been good all season. But as Cody Bellinger said in his post-game press conference, did you hear his comments in the post-game?
I didn't. I turned the game off after
This is a quote. I'm not making this up. Cody Bellinger of the Los Angeles Dodgers said that. They asked him about Logan Webb, and he said that Logan Webb stuck it up their keisters twice in this series. So, and I agree. Logan Webb, 7 innings. He allowed 1 earned, 4 hits, 7 Ks. I want to say he had 21 strikeouts. Is that right?
21 strikeouts in 2 games.
That's just ridiculous. And, I mean, he pitched great this series. Pitched great for them all year, and he's their ace. Kevin Gausman's hitting free agency. We'll see if they bring him back, but I think even if you bring him back, Logan Webb's the ace. And to not overshadow Julio Urias, this is a bullpen opener game for them. Niebel and Bizarder, I think, started this game with 2 innings for them out of the bullpen, and then Urias pitched 4. But man, Logan Webb is probably the star of the playoffs thus far, I believe. But that is how the Dodgers got to the NLCS.
Those dang Dodgers. Now that we recapped all the ALDSs, NLDSs, going into the next series, one player from each team. Who's the key player for him?
For the Dodgers, I think it's still Mookie Betts. I think they go as Mookie goes at the top of that order. It was nice to kind of see Cody Bellinger kind of find his footing. He's struggled all year, but Mookie Betts is batting .450 right now. So I feel like as long as he keeps that up, because Mookie is one of those guys where he can hit 3 home runs in a game and no one bats an eye. And he can also just hit 4 doubles. And, it's just one of those things. He's a great hitter. He's showing why he's probably the second best player in baseball still. So I think they go as Mookie goes. And for the Braves, it's got to be MV3. It's got to be him or Austin Riley. I'll say Austin Riley just for the sake of argument because I don't want to be basic. But Freeman, of course, absolutely amazing. But Austin Riley played great in that Brewer series as well. And he's going to be vital in the middle of this order because if he goes cold, it's going to be tough for this team without Ronald Acuna to get that run production. Because I think they have Dansby Swanson hitting leadoff right now, and it's a role he's not really used to, I don't believe. But it's definitely Freeman and Riley are the key players for the Braves.
I had Mookie for LA. Mookie, he's doing everything in LA. And if you think about it, he kind of had a down year, as people say, with the injuries. But yeah. Mookie's Mookie. I mean, I just think I don't think he's ever had a bad season so far since he's been playing at a high level.
And I mean, even when he's not hitting, he's one of the best defensive outfielders there is, and he's got the arm to match.
He had a play in right field, I want to say game 3 or 4, where he gunned someone out at third base, and it was just an amazing play. Like you said, I think he leads the pack wherever he goes, they go. For Braves, I actually chose Jock Peterson as a key player just because he knows this Dodger team very well. He knows for years. And like we said, Jocktober is not a joke. I do think he can have some key at-bats to where – and he'll have some key at-bats to where it could swing Atlanta's way. But also, he might be able to give some insight on some of these pitchers from the Dodgers.
Yeah, that's an aspect that's kind of overlooked. But Jocktober is real. Jocktober is in full effect right now.
It's the pearls.
It is the pearls, man. He looks so fancy. Look good, play good. If you play good, they pay good, baby. They pay good. He's a free agent. He's looking for a contract.
He's looking like prime time out there in Atlanta.
Hey. He put him at corner. He might be able to play some football. He might be the new prime time.
Never know.
October, baby.
But who do you got for some key players in the ALCS?
I'm hoping for mutual destruction in this field. I think the National Guard is a key player in keeping this series from happening. But for real, I think the Red Sox definitely need this JD Martinez to stay. Thank God he got healthy for him. He had a pretty good series in the games he played against the Rays. So definitely, I think he's been bad enough. 5th or 6th, right, in the lineup the last couple of years.
It's switched between 5th and 6th.
So he definitely needs to continue. I think he's a big bat for them. And he's kind of, he's got some personal vested interest against the Astros. They did, release him, years back. So, and for the Astros, I think it's got to be Yonder Alvarez. He's not impressed me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He had a really good season, but he hasn't really impressed me this playoffs. He's been okay. I think he could play a lot better though, and I expect him to play a lot better. Also, Carlos Correa, he's a pending free agent, and he is probably the most clutch player in this lineup. So those are definitely key players for them.
Yeah, I had Correa as well. He's batting at 385, 529 OBP. But for Boston, I had a couple. The first one, key player for me, is Rafael Devers. I know he's got a forearm injury right now, but this man needs to be able to hit a high fastball. I don't know how many times last series where we saw Devers get pitched a high fastball and he's not even making contact with it.
Listen, you don't have to make contact when you can take something out of the dirt and send it 450 feet into the stands. I mean, you give and take, man. You can't cover the entire play. You got to have a weakness somewhere.
But you got to at least put the ball in play. Come on. I know those low pitches he loves, but I need to see a little bit more production on the high pitches. And then my other guy was Kiki Hernandez, just because he literally is the Human Torch right now. in October.
Enrique.
Enrique. Kiki.
Enrique.
But no,
Kiki does love you.
he does love Boston. I will say that. Him and Cora have a great relationship. They've talked about it before in the
Yeah,
past.
I'm sure they do. The HGH supply is probably
Hey,
running through his
But he leads Boston in all the hitting aspects since the so I do think he's going to be a key hitter in the game, but we'll wait and see. Game time tonight is what 8:07, 8:05.
Yeah, something like that. Don't worry, it's Fox. Joe Buck's on the call. So, if you guys are going to watch this series, just go ahead and mute your TV. Do yourself a favor.
We might be how about we commentate over the game? We'll do a live.
Hey, I'm down. I'm down to do that. It'll be more entertaining than listening to Joe Buck, I promise.
Maybe if they make the World Series, we'll see what our options are. But that's all we have for some baseball today. We're gonna take a quick dive into the NFL world. Last night, Tampa Bay Buccaneers went on the road to take on Philadelphia Eagles, and really, Tampa Bay really dominated this game from, I want to say, the second quarter on. Philly, they did score, but you kind of always knew Tampa was going to win this one, in my opinion.
Did you know, Tommy? I actually have a sponsor for the podcast.
Oh,
this is crazy. This is breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. The waste management company. He goes and picks up garbage.
Yeah. I'm familiar with waste management.
Yeah. I would love to ask them to sponsor this game while we're talking about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because this is the biggest garbage time stat pad fest I've ever seen in my life. Now, I will admit they scored first. Did they not? I think the Eagles did score first.
No, Tampa scored first, I want to say.
Okay. Well, they responded, and it was 7-7 after the first quarter, or 14-7 after the first quarter. And I thought it was going to be 28-0. So, they did exceed expectations for me. But Jalen Hurts is the biggest garbage time quarterback I have ever seen. You go look at his game. He did awful. He was 12 of 26, 115 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a 40.2 QBR. Tommy, this guy is awful. He's one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever laid eyes on. He is what people think Lamar Jackson is. He quite honestly might have the worst touch in the NFL, and I have to watch Zach Wilson play every Sunday.
So Zach Wilson in person, he's got some touch. I will say that.
Also, Miles Sanders obviously has killed somebody. He has killed Nick Sirianni's wife, his grandma, his mom. The dude averaged 6.2 yards a carry. I mean, it was carried by a 23-yard run. But you can't sit here and tell me that Kenneth Gainwell deserves to be on the field for more than maybe 30% of the snaps. Miles Sanders is legit, and he's being underutilized terribly. Also, this is no excuse for Jalen to have this bad of a game against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has let every offense they've played thus far pretty much throw the ball for free. Yeah. So, and still a banged up secondary. Richard Sherman goes out. Not that it would have made a big of a deal. I mean, Richard Sherman can't keep up with a cow. So,
baby.
Yeah, he needs to retire. It's no longer the Legion of Boom. It needs to be the Legion of AARP. He needs to be drawing a retirement check.
He'll need to answer for bingo later tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he strains his hammy probably for the 50th time in that game.
You're used to that for the past couple of years now.
I'm shocked that he was able to walk, honestly. And Jalen Hurts throws a dud. And this is rooted kind of in fantasy. He had a decent game for fantasy, or a good game for fantasy. But even then, people make the argument, well, he scored 3 touchdowns and he carried his team. No, he didn't. No. Jalen Hurts is awful. He's not the guy. You can't convince me that he's really any better than Nate Sudfeld. This dude he deserves to be a backup. He has all the talent in the world. Sure, I get that. He's got the tools you're looking for in a QB these days. But dude, he's had a whole offseason. Like, how long are we gonna wait to see what this guy can do? People wanted him to start over Carson Wentz last year. I'll take Carson Wentz 10 times out of 10 right now.
Broken or sprained ankles and all, or
Yep, double sprained ankles. I'll take double broken ankles. Put him in a wheelchair. Jalen can run and he has a strong arm, but he has no touch and he can't read a defense. I feel like he's hurting this team. They have the talent. Devontae Smith, I mean, you can't tell me that he can't get open. All he's done in his career is get open. He did it in college. He baptized some of the best corners in college football, and they call him daddy. And I'm sure by the end of his NFL career, they'll be calling him daddy here too if he can ever get a quarterback.
I mean, you're not wrong.
He's an elite route runner. That translates. Quez Watkins, he's a burner. They still have Zach Ertz. Thank God he caught a touchdown. We'll talk about that later. But I'm glad Zach Ertz in his final game as an Eagle caught a touchdown. They have talent. Jalen Hurts is awful.
He's a bum.
Awful.
I
have to watch Jimmy Garoppolo as a 49ers fan. And I always say I'd rather have a lot of quarterbacks over Jimmy Garoppolo. Jalen Hurts is not one of them. That's the end of my rant. I just had to get that off my chest. He's not the guy. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
Trust me. You're not. Honestly, they'll give him couple more years. They'll say, "Oh, he had a new coach this year." It'll be that whole shtick. But really, Tampa just is following the TV. But they're following the TB12 method right now, and honestly, he's just the mental game still there, and he's looking great still.
Yeah, when you're taking HGH, the arm doesn't fall off, so
But honestly, Tampa, as long as that offense is there, they're going to make the deep run. They did everything right this game as they should. I feel like the score doesn't dictate how well Tampa really played in this one.
If we want to put an actual score on how bad they outplayed the Eagles on all facets of the game, it is probably like 35-7. Like, I will admit, though, one thing I have to get off my chest about Tom Brady, PFF loves this guy. The dude should have 2 picks in this game, okay? That first pick that he had, it was a pick. It was a pick. It was a turnover-worthy play. And the other pick he had was a turnover-worthy play. I'm sure PFF will find a way to spin it to say that it wasn't turnover-worthy. Tom Brady is a 3-yard check down, run after catch merchant. But he's the best. He's the best one there's ever been. So I can't hate on him. There's a reason he's gone to all these Super Bowls. The dude knows what he can do and what he can't do. So I'm not hating on him for that. But I think the big story of this game is playoff Lenny. Lombardi Lenny came early. Christmas has come early in the Fournette household. This dude's going to get paid. He going to get paid. Lombardi Lenny.
Say goodbye to Ronald Jones after this year.
He actually out-averaged him. I think Ronald Jones averaged 4 yards a carry. I think Leonard Fournette only averaged 3.7.
Well, let's be fair. Ronald Jones probably had two runs?
Yeah, 5 for 20.
But
Leonard Fournette still has the same issues. He looks slow. He kind of looks like Eddie Lacy after the Chinese food, but he runs hard. He can catch the ball. I didn't know he could do that. He can catch the ball, and in the red zone, he gets into the end zone. So, I mean, he's a solid running back. And Antonio Brown is apparently the wide receiver 1 now. I guess Mike Evans is gone.
Quick call to God. That's all it takes.
So
business is booming for him down there.
Hey, grandmama, they freed him.
They freed me, mama.
They freed him.
I'm just trying to.
Bill Belichick couldn't harness the powers of AB, but Bruce Arians has been able to do it successfully.
Bill would have if Antonio Brown didn't decide to go ballistic. Come on.
Well, sometimes you just gotta look back on things, and Antonio Brown loves looking at backs. So
you're not wrong. But let's move on to some Sunday picks. We'll start off with another London game, and I'm sorry,
Ooh.
England, Miami, Jacksonville. You
I
know,
don't get this. Baseball is supposed to do everything terrible, but baseball sent the Red Sox Yankees over there. Send your rivalry over there. We have a pseudo rapist in Urban Meyer and in the Dolphins, who have Tua back, but I'm not sure how big of an upgrade that is. These teams have 1 win combined. I mean, this is astonishing, honestly, that this is the product we send to England.
this is what they get for what they've done to us in the past.
Free since 1776, baby.
Who do you have winning this one?
Not America. Actually, America wins this because it's at 8:30 and no one will be up.
They don't get
so. Thank God. Thank you, London, for taking one for the team. But realistically, this should be Miami's get right game. If they can't win this game, something is seriously wrong. They might as well just kind of fold. And if Tua doesn't come out of this game with a 75-80% completion percentage, which is high, but it's Jacksonville, then he's not the guy.
They need Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, well, we don't know if Deshaun's ever going to play again. But yeah, I don't see Jacksonville winning a game this season. Urban Meyer is that terrible of a head coach. So I've got Miami.
Yeah, there really isn't too much to like about either teams. but the offenses are still trying to figure it out, even though it's been, I don't know how many weeks into the season. I know it's 6 weeks in the regular season, but they had training camps and everything. And neither defense looks like they can stop a runny nose right now. So I like the Dolphins' chances just because they are facing Jacksonville. So I'm with you. I'm going to go with the Dolphins on this one. But next game, this will be the first game in America. Kansas City versus the Washington football team.
I just received news via my fantasy team that Terry McLaurin is not likely to play this game. So that hurts the football team's chances. He did not practice. He did not practice today with a hamstring injury. So it's not looking good for him to play someday.
It is I read it also because out of the 4 leagues I'm in, I have him in 2 of them. And they said it's very precautionary right now. They're saying there's still a chance that he does suit up.
We'll hope. Let's pray. But Kansas City, you have the perfect chance here. Everyone is, kind of wary. Is Kansas City legit? Is their defense good or not? You're playing Taylor Heineke and the Washington football team. Your offensive line, if this was last year, I'd actually pick the football team in an upset. But their offensive line is much better. And the football team can't seem to get pressure, even though they have Chase Young and his 7 malicious brothers. So, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Travis Kelce. This should be a very easy game for you. The Raiders just lost their head coach. We'll talk about that in a bit. The Chargers kind of own your division, and the Broncos have a guy who wears 2 gloves as a starting quarterback. So, I mean, I feel like if they don't win this game, the Chiefs are kind of doomed to finish 3rd or 4th in that division and not make the playoffs. So, yeah. I'll take the Chiefs just because I can't see that happening. But the football team, this should be competitive. I like Taylor Heineke a lot. Don't get it twisted. I think he's a good quarterback. I like this team a lot, and I think the defensive line kind of got to start something going against Atlanta, and I think they need to keep building that small momentum. And it's the NFC East, so, definitely a division that is winnable. The Cowboys, they're good, but the rest of the team's terrible. So they should finish 2nd.
Yeah, I looked at it. I was like, quarterback play. Kansas City's got Mahomes. Heineke's still figuring things out. I do think he's played good. I just think Mahomes is he's going to make that play where it's like, oh, my God, it's Mahomes.
Yeah,
but
probably.
I do think it's going to be a tight game. But did you know Kansas City never gets the calls according to Patrick Mahomes' wife?
That's crazy. Wow. That's crazy. I think I remember like very faintly. I think I can't remember if they've been to 2 Super Bowls or 1, but I think they played the 49ers in 2019 in the Super Bowl. I think it was Nick Bosa's rookie season.
I was just about to say.
I think, Nick Bosa might have had the greatest pass rushing season in rookie history.
Yeah.
I can't remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do think Nick Bosa got held the entire game. I think he actually got like murdered on the field. And George Kittle, OPI on a play that was very questionable. And we didn't get a roughing the passer when they pretty much knocked Jimmy Garoppolo unconscious. I mean, again, but they don't get the calls. So, you just gotta agree with his wife,
Do you know who my husband is? That's Patrick Mahomes out on the field. My brother-in-law, Jackson, is making TikToks. Right?
I mean,
sue you.
Listen, you can't complain about calls when your defense is that trash.
Exactly. Talk about trash. Let's move on to versus Giants. The Giants have just been a dumpster fire in New York.
It's only getting worse.
Finally good now because
thank God for Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, Mr. NBA young boy right now. But yeah,
they're without Saquon and Kenny Galladay for this game, and Danny Dimes is probably still concussed. So I'm going to take the Rams. I don't see them losing this game.
Injuries, no injuries. I feel like the Rams would have just steamrolled them anyway.
I mean, Aaron Donald versus the Giants offensive line. That's a discussion for the Geneva Convention. So, yeah.
We'd like to take that to the Supreme Court. But next game, Colts Texans.
Man.
Of the dumpster fires.
Dang, I'm so excited to watch these 2 1-4 teams. In the Colts defense, I do think they're way better than their 1-4 record. But also, it just seems like the defense isn't there. Like with the football team, I've seen flashes, right? But with the Colts, I just feel like their defense is just bleh. Yeah, I just feel like they're just not really they haven't been great, but they haven't been like terrible. They've just been mediocre the entire season.
They're stuck in mud.
Yeah, they need to kick it into overdrive. I mean, 1-4 would definitely be. It's hard to come back from 1-4 and try to make a playoff run. But I mean, I feel like this is a roster you can't really sell because you just, put the farm on Carson Wentz. And it hasn't been Wentz that has let you down. He's actually played decently well. I mean, outside of him still trying to be Superman and not take any plays off, he's played okay. He's played serviceable to where you shouldn't be 1-4. And for Houston, listen, you come into every game, you're an underdog. You have a rookie head coach no one believes in, and you have General Davis Mills as your quarterback. So you really just come in and you got to play with your hair on fire. You got to play to not, to just try to shock the world. But it's going to be a rough season for y'all. So I'm going to take the Colts just because Houston is Houston, but it wouldn't shock me if Houston pulls off this upset.
Yeah, last week I was on the edge of my seat with the Houston-New England game. I saw some good things out of that Houston offense, and that Houston defense did step up a little bit. Laramie Tunsil's out, I want to say. Did they put him on IR?
I don't know. I will check really quickly for you.
I know he's having thumb surgery, so
yeah, he is out. It doesn't say if he's on IR or not, but he's out.
Honestly, like you said, both teams are struggling, but
Deshaun Watson is also out. Just to make
he's getting massaged with Robert Kraft right now,
just to make sure. I don't know if you knew or not.
Yeah, I moving on from Deshaun Watson. I think is Tyrod back?
I don't believe so. He might be actually.
If Tyrod's back, I can see Houston winning this one.
I haven't really heard anything, but just assuming that Davis Mills is starting.
I believe in miracles, and I believe Houston could pull one off.
I think if Frank Reich just realizes that Jonathan Taylor is one of the top 10 most talented running backs in the league, and he's just like, hey, Carson, hand the ball off 25 times, they'll be fine. But if he goes in with a game plan where it's like, hey, we're going to run Jonathan Taylor 10 times, he's going to get 70 yards, and then we're going to realize he was averaging 7 yards to carry, and we're going to wonder why we lost, just ride Jonathan Taylor. He's that guy. He's the engine for their offense. This is not MVP Carson Wentz. He's not going to, just let him rely on the run game and make the throws when he needs to make them.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Green Bay, Chicago next game.
Wow. So exciting. Green Bay. It's Matt Nagy. I don't care that he gave up the play calling duties. That's sad that you're an offensive minded coach and your offense is better with not calling the plays, right? That's like a doc. That's like a surgeon who can't do surgery. He's like, I would rather my nurse.
I don't know how to do this, man.
What do you mean you need a heart transplant? I've never done one.
Oh my God.
I guess you're dying. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, Chicago is facing its owner, really, and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Daddy Aaron's in town.
Yeah. And he's a bad man. I mean, just that alone, Green Bay winning.
And the NFC North is going to look so weird when Devontae and Aaron Rodgers are gone, and the Packers realize that was their only hope of being relevant, and they sink to the bottom of that division because, man, the NFC North, they need to sue for emotional damages. The past 15 years, Aaron Rodgers has been just spanking them.
When that collarbone's not broken.
Or when his knees aren't displaced.
But next game, Chargers, Baltimore. Could be game of the week right here.
This is going to be game of the week. I love this game. My man Sherbert, Justin Sherbert, he can do everything. That's why I'm going to start calling him Sherbert. Just like Sherbet ice cream's got all the flavors. He can do everything.
Got it all.
He's white chocolate. Have you seen him move? Amazing. Have you seen him throw? Amazing. He's got a Peyton Manning-sized forehead. The knowledge is there too. This guy has got it all. He's my favorite quarterback in the league right now. I'm going to take the Chargers because I love the Chargers. And I love Lamar Jackson, big trust, but I love that the Chargers are owned in that Kansas City division, and I'm so glad that it doesn't look like Justin Herbert's career is going to get wasted by terrible defenses. So, Chargers, bolt up.
I think it's going to be a good game. I do think Chargers are a little bit more well-rounded, and Brandon Staley's been a great coach so far in LA.
And what's really sad is they really don't have any fans.
I know.
If they were still in San Diego, this would be ridiculous.
Do you think they should move back to San Diego?
I mean, at this point, yeah. Do they have plans? I don't even think they have plans to build a stadium yet. I think
they're just sharing SoFi. It's going to be like MetLife.
Yeah, I really do just think they should just move back to San Diego or if they were going to move from San Diego, you got to move out of state, man. Why would you move to LA? LA is not a football town. The only reason it seems like a football town is because the Rams just got back there. But if USC ain't good, they don't care.
Just hop in Phillip Rivers' 10-kid van. He'll bring you all back down to San Diego. He'll be all right. But next game, Minnesota, Carolina.
The battle of
500.
Yeah, pretty much. Minnesota should have a healthy Dalvin Cook.
And Jefferson.
Yep. And Carolina's defense has looked very strong. So it'll be interesting to see how they do against Dalvin Cook. They did just let Zeke eat on them. So I feel like they got to step up against these elite running backs. So I'm going to take Minnesota because I think Kirk Cousins has still been playing well. And I think a healthy Dalvin Cook just changes that offense completely. And Christian McCaffrey's out again. And Sam Darnold looked a whole lot more like Sam Darnold and not like white Michael Vick. So, yeah.
I was going to pick Carolina just because they do get Gilmore. But we haven't seen what Gilmore's looked like in a while. And
He's going to
last
need
year,
time to play off the rust,
yeah, and last year he didn't look like his all-pro self. So with Justin Jefferson healthy, Cook healthy, I do think Minnesota is going to edge this one out as well. And then we also have another potential game of the week: Arizona versus Cleveland.
I'm gonna take. I don't ever like picking the teams that are undefeated because they got to lose at some point.
They come to an end eventually.
But I honestly don't see it happening here. I do love Cleveland's defense, but their offense has not been good. Nick Chubb being out is huge. They do have Kareem Hunt, but I think if Baker and OBJ could find that connection that we've been waiting on them to have, they could win this game, but I don't see it happening. So I'm going to take Arizona just because I think they can win a shootout, and their defense has been good enough to where I think if it was a grind game, they could win one of those two.
Yeah, I have Arizona by a thread here as well. This is a big test for them. Cleveland's defense maybe can contain Murray. That's the whole thing. If you contain Murray, I think they get the win. But that's easier said than done. So I do think Murray will just outlast that Cleveland pass rush. Myles Garrett is no joke, but Clowney, we've seen what he plays like. I mean,
how many Kyler Murrays could you stack on top of each other to get a Myles Garrett?
I'm saying 2.5.
2.5. But how wide? Because Myles Garrett's kind of built like a brick wall.
Maybe 5.
5, yeah, that's what I was thinking. He's built, man.
He's a little football baby, Kyle Moe.
I mean, Myles Garrett's a Greek god. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of crazy
how.
Yeah, I mean, he'll hit you with a helmet. He's very violent. He's a violent football player.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
He might eat Kyler Murray.
You never know.
It's like calling him snack size.
He's fun size, okay? But next game, Denver versus the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, it's not just win, baby. It's just sad, baby. It's very sad. Just to go ahead and talk about this, John Gruden did deserve to be fired. He didn't get fired over the racist remarks that were indeed racist. But the things he said about the LGBTQ community and just degrading women and it was disgusting. It was disgusting remarks. He did deserve to be fired. So it really hurts the Raiders. They were playing well. They were playing for old Chucky, but this is gonna be something they're gonna have to overcome. I do still have them winning this game. I feel like the game plan can stay the same and they can still win, but it's not going to shock me if they take a tailspin and they end up being the worst team in that division now without John Gruden. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I just had Denver for head coaching reasons.
That's fair.
I'll leave it at that. I think you hit every point. So we'll move on to the next game. America's game of the week, the Dallas Cowboys versus New England Patriots.
Wow, America's game. Ooh, definitely not just the Northeast and Texas.
I mean, that's America's what CBS game has it as. It's the 420.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna take Dallas just because their defenses look tremendous, and I don't think New England can keep up in a shootout. So, Dallas.
Yeah, Mom and Dad, this one's for you. I'm going Dallas as well. Dallas's offense is just too well-rounded with Zeke eating everything in sight and not gaining weight like Eddie Lacy. Dax looked great. Trayvon Diggs has looked great. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's overrated, but he's getting the interceptions. I mean, turnovers are turnovers in my eyes. The only way I see the Patriots winning this one is if Bill Belichick just schemes amazingly. He's done it before. but I just don't see it happening. I think Mac Jones will have a good game. I think he's looked better and better each week.
He's just getting more comfortable with the offense, man.
And watch out for Kendrick Bourne having a good game. I do think he might be one of the favorite targets. But like you said, I don't see New England keeping up in the shootout. I'm going America's team, the Dallas Cowboys as well. And then here's the real barn burner, Sunday Night Football. The Seattle Seahawks versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Breaking news for this game, and for the fantasy community. Chris Carson is going on IR, so he will miss at least the next 3 games with his neck issue. Not that that really affects anything, because Geno Smith is going to take the field for the Neon Green Highlighter team. And Pittsburgh, this might be the only game this season that they have the better quarterback.
That's rare.
And quite honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Geno comes out here and plays better.
Geno didn't look terrible in the Rams game.
He didn't. But he's not Russell Wilson.
No. I mean, no one's Russell Wilson.
But to be fair, he got drafted by the Jets. So he was never really put in a position to succeed.
He's had years as the backup there now.
So, I mean, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if Geno's better than Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, Big Ben is not better than many quarterbacks. But I actually think this offense does get an upgrade with Juju out. I know I said, week 3, I believe, that I said Juju was a bright spot on that offense. Well, after I said those comments, he decided to go back to form. And pretty much the only thing he was doing well was run blocking.
Making TikTok.
And run blocking. So Chase Claypool playing every snap, being in all the 2 wide receiver sets. Yeah, I think he's their most talented. Yeah, he's their most talented wide receiver, I think, in total, into the total package. Claypool is. So I think that's actually an upgrade. And it's Seattle. They can't stop anybody in any facet, the run game or passing. So this should be a pretty good game for Pittsburgh's offense. Defensively, I don't know. TJ Watt, sure. Minka Fitzpatrick, sure. Everybody else, they're kind of suspect. So if Geno Smith puts on his best Russell Wilson impersonation, don't be shocked. But I'll take Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh should win this game. Their defense, I think, is going to carry them. I do think, like you said, Big Ben, this is the only matchup where he's not the worst quarterback. But if we're going to have no Russell Wilson for at least 3 weeks, because he just went on IR as well, we're going to need Tyler Lockett to have not 0.1 yak yards. Okay? He is catching the ball and falling down.
It's also, they're just kind of saying, all right, Tyler, run as fast as you can in a straight line. Or you're going to catch the ball and you're going to get tackled immediately. They're not giving him any room to operate. I don't think that's going to change because I don't see them changing the game plan with Geno Smith. Matter of fact, they'll be more conservative. I wouldn't over under 16 bubble screens being thrown.
We might see that. Just in that whole time period or just against Pittsburgh?
No, just against Pittsburgh. Okay. I don't think they'll let Geno throw the ball downfield.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, if it's like a 10-yard route to DK, maybe.
DK can't catch. I'm not.
They connected a couple times last game. And he's a big target to where Geno doesn't have to fit the ball in some tight spaces with him.
Yes, he is very big. He also has hands like bricks.
Yeah. I know, but you never know.
He's going to need the Midas touch.
I just think Pittsburgh with Geno Smith going against them will be better on both sides of the ball.
You know what? No, screw that. I'm taking Seattle. I actually think Big Ben is that terrible that Geno Smith will come out here and play better than Ben Roethlisberger.
I mean, I think he's bad too, but just not as bad as Geno Smith. I watched a lot of Geno Smith in New York.
No, I'm not having it. Geno Smith will come out here and make Seattle fans forget about Russell Wilson.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think Russell Wilson might be gone after this year in Seattle. I think he doesn't want to be there anymore, but
Geno Smith leads the Seattle Seahawks 21, Pittsburgh 17.
I can see it happening. I can, but I don't think it will.
Neither do I, but
Yeah.
for the sake of the argument, I'm going to take Geno Smith.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. So on to Monday night now. We got the Buffalo Bills versus Tennessee Titans.
This could either be a shootout or Buffalo could just destroy the offensive line of Tennessee. Derrick Henry doesn't do anything, and he looks a whole lot like what happened in the first week for Tennessee. I'm going to take the former, and I'm going to say it's going to be a shootout. And I'm going to say Tennessee comes out on top. Something about this matchup, I think this is the type of game Tennessee gets up for. And I think they have to show that they can still compete with those elite teams, and I think they'll win this one in a shootout.
Last time out, I looked at it, and Tennessee really crushed Buffalo. Was it in Buffalo?
I do not believe so.
It was last year on a Tuesday, I remember.
Actually, it must have been in Buffalo because this year it's in Tennessee.
Okay. So I do think this year it's going to be a little bit different just because that Tennessee team is not the same.
No.
They're not as strong as they used to be. I'm saying it's going to be a shootout. And I have the Bills winning just by that much. I think it's going to come down to a field goal maybe or one score.
Fat Randy will win it then if it comes down to a field goal. Tennessee. We did miss one game. It's a game that probably no one cares about, but we did miss one.
Oh, God.
It is Cincinnati versus Detroit.
Oh my God. You see, I wrote it down too in here, and I just completely I don't know.
I mean, I can't blame you. I mean, Cincinnati does look good though, and I'm gonna take them to win this game because Detroit is playing inspired football. That's about as far as you can go. They're inspired, they're competitive, and they lose every game.
Dan Campbell was at the podium, and he broke down, and they're getting a win this week, okay? They're taking the Cincinnati Bengals kneecaps. They're doing it.
If he can't beat Matt Nagy, beating Zach Taylor probably the second best option. So maybe.
I mean, Cincinnati's defense is not that good.
Yeah, but I feel like they're just about on par with Chicago.
Yeah, but they're gonna do it, man. You just gotta believe.
I believe in Dan Campbell. I think this team is better than an 0-5 record, but I think Cincinnati's offense has just found its groove right now, and I think Joe Burrow loves having Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins has not even yet to really be in the game plan because he just came back from injury. So that's my take on it.
I believe in my man Dan. He's gonna get one this week. I believe it. But that is now all the Sunday picks for week 6, right?
Yep.
So yeah. With that, after week 6, we got 3 weeks till the trade deadline. I want to hear. Give me some buyers and sellers.
Well, the market did just start. Zach Ertz was traded to the Cardinals for, I believe, a 5th-round pick and a corner. I don't remember the corner's name, but he was just traded to the Cardinals, which is on par for the NFL to send more talented players to the NFC West. You know, just continue to bring them over here because no other division of football needs talent, apparently. But buyer, I think the Washington football team should be buyers. They're 2-3. The defenses look kind of shoddy, and the offense has Taylor Heineke, but I think he's the better option between him and Fitzpatrick. I believe in Fitzpatrick, but he's out, so you got to disregard that. This division, even though the Cowboys are 4-1, the Cowboys are going to slip up. It's never an easy division in the NFC East. Those teams are trash. Also, I think a wild card play can be in play for them still if they can just get hot. And I think you got to show faith in this team, in this defense, and in Taylor Heineke. You got to go get a piece. You know, I don't know what they want to do, but I feel like you just got to go get a piece. I feel like they could definitely use as a receiver. to go along with McLaurin since Curtis Samuel's been hurt as much as he has. Definitely an offensive lineman, and maybe just get a safety or a linebacker, because Cole Holcomb has played good, but all the other linebackers haven't really. And I feel like definitely getting a linebacker to go along with him would be great. And my seller is the Dolphins. They were everyone's favorite dark horse, kind of deep playoff run pick this year. The defense looked outstanding last year. But the difference is they don't have a quarterback, because Ryan Fitzpatrick played well last year, and Tua doesn't look good, and Jacoby Brissett is not a good quarterback. They're 1-4. They're not going to win that division. They have no chance at the playoffs in the AFC, and their defense has regressed. I think they got to sell the pieces they got. Xavier Howard should be gone. Byron Jones should be gone. I honestly get what you can for Tua, maybe. I think they have to sell. They also have, they already have a couple extra picks this year with the 49ers trade. So this might be the year for them to just load up in the draft and really make a solid base for this team. But they definitely don't need to buy, and they don't need to hold. They should be sellers for sure.
I agree with you with trading Howard. I do think he'll get traded, but I also had Miami as one of my sellers, and I don't see him being able to sell Byron Jones because that contract is so huge. What is
I think
it?
if they, it's pretty pricey.
Yeah, and it's only 1 year.
I feel like they could definitely, if they ate some money, they could get something for him. It's not going to be anything crazy, but like 6th or 7th round pick is better than nothing.
That's true.
And Myles Gaskin should be gone. They need to sell some of those receivers. Like, they just need to completely tear down that offense, quite honestly. Rebuild around Jalen Waddle, and you got to get a quarterback this year. With the way the 49ers are playing, it does look like their pick will be somewhat high, probably in the top 15 or 16. And if you get extra picks, you could package that up and move up, but they got to get a quarterback this year.
Yeah, you're not wrong. My number one buyer, it was actually the Bills for me. I do think they do have the parts to make that long playoff run again. I do think they're going to do it, but I don't know if that defense is going to hold up. So I do think they should be in the market for a D end or a corner, just because their corner play has never really been, besides Tre'Davious White, that number 2 guy has never been that great where like they can both shut down receivers. They have Poyer in the secondary, and I think Hyde, right?
Hyde. Micah Hyde. Yep.
But they need some big guys up front too. They've never really had that standout guy up front.
Yeah, I agree with that. Buffalo's definitely a team I could see being buyers. Also, I actually don't think getting another offensive piece would be that bad for them. Getting another receiver. They bought well. I think they bought a little low with Emmanuel Sanders, and it paid dividends for him.
Yeah, he's looked really good so far in Buffalo.
Yeah, getting another pass catcher never hurts. You always need depth. It doesn't have to be anyone great, but depth always helps.
And then my seller, it's actually an NFC West team. It's the Seattle Seahawks. You got to get rid of Jamal Adams, I think.
Blitz boy can't play safety.
He cannot play anywhere besides linebacker or
crazy. People are like, man, he's got so many sacks. He's so good in the box. I didn't know that safeties were supposed to get sacks. I thought that.
I never liked the signing or trade in general. I've never been really too high on Jamal Adams.
Can't play coverage. He might be one of the worst safeties in coverage, and he's the highest paid safety.
I don't get how. Like, if you're going to be safety, you're going to be able to have to like play some form of pass defense. Julian Edelman had over 100 yards on him last year, and Julian Edelman's knees were literally cracking every time he moved down the field. But
pretty embarrassing for that defense.
I just think they got to move on. They got to move on from. I think they might move Bobby Wagner if they're going to sell. You could get some pieces back from him still. I mean, he's still a solid player. He's not playing like his usual self, I feel like. And Russell Wilson has expressed that he is not that happy in the organization. We did see him almost get traded in the offseason. Like there were talks of it.
I think that's a move you make in the offseason, though.
I do think that's the move you make in the offseason, but I do think you may be able to make some of these moves now, like on the defensive side, and maybe even getting rid of Tyler Lockett as well.
I was going to say that.
I mean, I would keep Metcalf just because he's still on a rookie deal. I do think they can bring someone in with him. Maybe try to move Chris Carson as well. I mean, but I feel like Chris Carson, his role depends on how Russell Wilson plays too.
Yeah.
That offense is how is Russell Wilson going to do today? That's how we're going to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
Any other teams?
No, not really. I guess I'll shout out the 49ers. I feel like we gotta make a decision. We don't have that many picks the next couple years. So if we think we can turn this thing around, then go for it. But I wouldn't be completely shocked to see us try to sell some pieces off and get something back for the draft this year because we've just underperformed. But other than that, no, I don't really have anyone else.
All right. With that said, NBA basketball is back Tuesday night, baby. Jordan and I
Off season is over.
Together. We watched a lot of basketball.
We did.
Especially when it was in the bubble. We are big basketball fans, so we thought it was only right with the season coming around. We give you some season predictions and some award predictions. And I'll have you start with some season predictions.
Well, I think the biggest season prediction for me, the biggest hot take, I guess, is I actually think that the Houston Rockets will make the playoffs in the West. I know that's incredibly shocking.
You just lit the stove on fire with that.
I know that's a ridiculous thing to say, but that's my hottest hot take, and I will tell you why. I believe that team can score and score in bunches. Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood, I think is maybe like as good of a combo as like Zion and Brandon Ingram. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Christian Wood is no Zion. Don't get that twisted. But Kevin Porter Jr. is my pick to win most improved player. I think he's a really good player. I think he's going to take strides. And obviously, I don't think it's very likely that they make the playoffs. But I could definitely see them sneaking in as the 8th seed. It would not shock me in the least. You add Jalen Green into that, who I think is polished as an NBA scorer. He showed it in the preseason. He can score from every level. He's very comfortable off the dribble. He looks good catch and shoot as well. And I think him and KPJ have the length and the athleticism to be good defensively. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if they're terrible, but I think that team's going to surprise some people with how well they play this year.
That you make some solid points, even though you did just light the stove on fire for hot takes. That I will say you did make it to where it does make sense if they do make the playoffs. Kevin Porter Jr., we've seen him have some incredible nights on the offensive end when he has his own locker on the team. But Christian Wood, I think, is definitely one of those players this year that I think will make the next step as he did last season. Last season, before he got hurt, he looked amazing. He stays healthy this year. I think he could make a push for maybe all-star bench player. You never know.
I can see it. And for my playoffs, that's like my hot take. But for my playoffs, my playoff prediction, my top 8 for each division, each conference. In the East, I have the Bucks finishing first. I have the Nets finishing second. Even with all the drama, I have Philly finishing third. I think that I don't know where you stand on the whole Ben Simmons thing. I think if Ben plays, as long as it's not rubbing him the wrong way and they stay together, and even if they trade him, they're going to get pieces back that are playoff pieces, playoff-ready pieces. But that team with the coaching and with Joel Embiid, defensively, they should still be able to finish third in that conference. I have the Heat fourth. I think the Heat are going to take a huge step. I think last year they played a lot of extra games in the bubble. I think Tyler Hero took a major step back. I think he'll come back this year. I think he's had a fire lit under him. I think Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry are just the presence you need. Also, Bam. I'll talk about him a little bit more later. But I think that team's fourth. I wouldn't actually be shocked if they finish third over Philly. Fifth, I have the Bulls. That's going to shock a lot of people. But as a Bulls fan, I think this team has all the offensive talent that they need to finish in the top five. I think they can score with anybody in the league at this point. And defensively in the preseason, although two of the games been against the Cavaliers, they have looked pretty good. It looks a whole lot more comfortable for everybody. Sixth, I have the Indiana Pacers. Seventh, I have the Celtics. And eighth, I've got Atlanta. I think Atlanta will definitely regress. Yeah. And I know I left the Knicks out. But I don't know. I love Tom Thibodeau, but there's just something about that team that just irks me. That I think it's Julius Randle being their best player. Defensively, they'll be strong. But here's what I'll say. I think 5 through 8 in the East is all interchangeable. Honestly, I think the top 4 is solidified, but 5 through 8 is pretty interchangeable everywhere. So if the Knicks were 5th, it wouldn't shock me. If they missed the playoffs, it wouldn't shock me. Same way with the Bulls. But in this prediction, I do have them missing out just because I think their offense is going to take a step back. So, any comments on that?
No, I mean, we have pretty similar ones, I think, off the top of my head. Honestly, I think I do have the Knicks in there, but pretty low. One thing that is different is mine, as you'll see, is I have Charlotte squeaking in. And I'll talk about more when that comes. But number 1, I'm going Bucks again. Number 2, I'm actually going Philly, even with or without Ben Simmons, just because I think Ben Simmons realized that he's not going to get money, so he has to show up.
Pretty much.
And like you said, if they get something back from him, it's going to be good pieces. Do I think he should be traded? Yes. When it comes playoff time,
I agree with that.
He's awful. And I think Joel Embiid's the way better player when he's healthy. He has missed games in his career, but this team without Ben Simmons playing through Joel Embiid could be a problem for the Bucks. Joel Embiid versus Giannis could be a great matchup for years to come. And then, so number 3, I'm going Brooklyn just because, they're without Kyrie. KD, he did come back from the injury and played amazing basketball, but he also did have like those lingering injuries that come up with age.
Yeah.
And this roster, it is old like the Lakers. Blake Griffin's not the same. LaMarcus Aldridge is not the same. Paul Millsap, yeah, he's solid, but he's not the Paul Millsap that was in Atlanta. Was it 5 years ago now that looked really well? I will say a great move was going out and getting Patty Mills.
I think he's going to be 6th man of the year.
I think if Kyrie is not playing, I think in the playoffs, Patty Mills will step up and play a huge role for the Nets.
I agree.
And then 4, I have Miami just because as much as that trade, their sign and trade hurt me, sending Goran away, Kyle Lowry is the better player in that situation just because he controls a lot of chaos. Kyle Lowry is a leader on the court. Not saying that Goran wasn't, but he's
got that playoff pedigree that you're looking for in a player. When the game is on the line and the pressure is the highest, Kyle Lowry will not fold. Now, he does have the tendency to go MIA from the scoring end in the playoffs, but I think people overlook how involved he gets his teammates in the playoffs. No, he doesn't command that last shot, but Miami doesn't need him to do that. They have Jimmy Butler. They have Tyler Hero. Those guys are there to make shots. But Kyle Lowry as a defensive leader and as the guy who in the fourth quarter with the last 2 minutes, he's going to be able to keep everyone calm, get in their offensive sets. He's perfect for Miami.
Yeah, and we were looking to trade for him. I think at the deadline. We were going to trade Goran to Dallas a couple of years ago when Jimmy got signed.
Yeah.
But another low-key signing by Miami, which I thought was a good deal, was signing PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker for them, it will help out a lot. I don't see Bam being a center still. I still think he's undersized. I know he's gained 15 pounds of muscle over the offseason, but
I think you limit Bam's impact when you put him at center.
yeah.
I feel like he can really guard 3 through 5. He's quick enough to where he can take bigger guards and keep them at bay.
He's been able to guard KD before.
Yeah, so I feel like Bam can't play center just because he's that good defensively, that you need that type of versatility on this team.
And then, so where's that number 5? I'm going Chicago as well. I think I'm a big believer in Lonzo Ball. I always have been. I think he's looked great this preseason, and he has looked good every season before that. He's made those strides. Yeah. And then you have Zach LaVine, who has looked amazing last year, looking like he's going to do it again. You have DeMar DeRozan, and you just traded for Vucevic. That's a huge trade right there.
I do think teams are I won't say teams, people in the media overlooked that the Bulls didn't have Vucevic the entire season last year. And when we did get him, Zach and half our bench went on the COVID list. So, and we lost Zach for I want to say 9 to 15 games.
Yeah,
around in that range.
It was close to 15, I want to say.
So we would have made the play-in tournament. And let's not discount Zach LaVine. With the amount of scoring that was put on his shoulders, the workload, he's one of the most efficient scorers in the NBA. And now he has Lonzo, he has DeMar, he has Vucevic for a full season. Williams will score more. These are big things that you can tell LaVine, you can take a step back and you don't have to, be the guy. Of course, at the end of the game, he'll be the one taking the last shot, I think. But I mean, he's just going to be even more efficient now because they can't double it, really. I mean, do you really want DeMar DeRozan one-on-one all night? He can't shoot threes, but I mean, DeMar DeRozan is pretty much money from mid-range.
Yeah, I think since he went to San Antonio, teams have, or not teams, but people have looked down on him, saying he's kind of decreased his value, but honestly, he didn't have that great of a situation in San Antonio.
Yeah, and he expanded his role. He's a great playmaker now. I mean, he's good for 26 and 6 every night.
I think they had to give up Thaddeus Young, right?
Yeah, losing Thad is definitely huge. Yeah. The bench definitely got weaker, but I think if Kobe White makes strides to score more off the bench, and also Alex Caruso is huge off the bench as a defensive presence, that this team should still be okay.
Yeah, I think the talent's there that they'll get them to the 5 seed. They could go higher, but I don't think that they don't make the play, or they will definitely make the playoffs. That's their floor, I think.
I've got the Bulls at 45 wins, right? I think that's 45. But why I put them 5, and I don't know if this is the same reason you put them 5. It's the Celtics, the Pacers, the Knicks, the Hawks, and even the Hornets, all those teams I also see at 45 to 46 wins. Also, I feel like the top 4 are 50 plus win teams. Everyone else falls right in that 40-ish win range.
That's why I didn't have them in the top 4, is I don't see them getting that 50 win mark, and it's their first year together. So first year together, it's going to take a little time. But for 6, I had the Pacers. 7, wait, no, I didn't have Pacers. 6, I have the Hawks. I have the Hawks squeaking in just because, we've seen what Trae Young can do. I do think he's going to have some big games. 7, I have the Knicks getting in. I do think they digress, but I do think I like the backcourt of D Rose and Kemba. I like that point guard duo. I do think that's going to help him out a little bit. But like you said, Julius Randle is your number one scorer. That can have some issues. But they also added Evan Fournier. So I do think the shooting's gotten a little bit better. So I do think they can still make the playoffs, but they won't be as good as they were last year. And so was this 8?
Yep.
Honestly, I have the Hornets getting in. I don't think Boston gets in. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are great, but Dennis Schroeder is Who's their big man now? They don't have any big man. Their bench.
Yeah, they still haven't fixed their problem. Their problem has never been scoring, right? It's always been that they don't have a defensive presence in the paint. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can score for you. You just have to surround them with pieces that can shoot and play defense, and they can't seem to do that.
And Brad Stevens getting a front office role is insane in my eyes. I don't know how he gets that job. And I just feel like these teams in the East are getting better, and Boston's just, like you said, staying the same.
Yeah.
So
I want to clarify. I mean, no disrespect to the Knicks whatsoever. I do think the Knicks could easily be a top 4 team in the East, honestly. Their defense was that good last year, and they did add Kimba, and they have the offensive talent, and their players are going to continue to progress. So I think the Knicks could easily be top 4. But I don't see it, man. I don't see it. And I know I'm being a Bulls homer, putting them at 5. They're probably closer to 7, but I don't see it.
I don't think it's homering just because a lot of people have seen the talent in Chicago and seen how I think Billy Donovan's a good coach. So I do think they are capable of doing that.
I just don't see I'm just not impressed with the Knicks roster. I really am not. So, but like I said, I always like to say this.
We got 82 games to watch.
Exactly. That's like I said, it's only the preseason. Yeah. And again, if they're the 3rd seed, it would not surprise me in the least. Tom Thibodeau's that good of a coach, and they were that good last year. But I feel like the East is getting a lot better than it was last year. I think it's going to take a big step this year.
Yeah. With the East wrapped up, here comes the Western Conference. You want me to start off or you?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So honestly, number 1, I think, is a toss-up because is Phoenix Suns going to play up to what they were? Is Denver going to be the same? Are the Lakers going to be what they think they're going to be? But ultimately, I have the Suns winning out the West. They kept that same team together, really. And I do think they're the best well-rounded team in the West right now. Number 2, I have Denver. Denver, again, didn't lose much. Then I think Aaron Gordon going to them at the trade deadline was big. They'll have a full season of that. I do think it's time to move on from Jamal Murray. I think him and Jokic together, I think getting Bradley Beal might be better than Jamal Murray. Number 3, I have the Dallas Mavericks. I think Luka is going to take that step, and I think he might be in the running for MVP this year. I think Luka is going to play great at the cost of Kristaps Porzingis being upset, really. I know he's felt like an afterthought, but he really is. I think if they do trade him, they can get some pieces back that could help Luka.
The problem with the Kristaps is, dude, you can't rebound. And you don't play that great a defense outside of being a decent shot blocker. And your offensive skill set is you shoot threes. But you don't shoot them at a 40% clip. You're not Jokic. You're not even Embiid.
He was a good player on a bad team in New York.
Yeah.
But I do think they can try to trade him to a good play or a bad team and try to get something back. But I think Luka's just going to have a great year just because from what we've seen out of him, it's just been amazing. And I think it's going to get better and better each year.
He can only continue to get better.
Yeah. And then number 4, I'm going Utah just because they're another solid team. You know, they didn't lose much. They're always around that mark, I feel like. And then they come postseason, they crash. but I don't see him dropping farther. 5, I'm going Clippers, but that's with Kawhi not there for most of the season.
Yeah.
I know they're trying to get him back earlier than usual. If he is there, maybe they push for 3-4. You never know. And then, so that's 6. Ooh, this is tough. I do think I'm going Grizzlies. I think they make that next step with Ja and Steven Adams. I do like Steven Adams as a center. He's like Valanciunas, but I do think maybe this Memphis team takes a step in the right direction. Oh, actually, no, never mind. Golden State gets Klay Thompson back. I do think this team will look way better than it has before. I'm going Golden State 6. Portland's always solid. I'm going Portland 7. And then I'm going to go Memphis 8.
All right. I have no objections to that. I would like to touch on Memphis a little bit. Do you believe that Ja can take a Derrick Rose level step? Do you think he could win an MVP this year? Like, say he averages like 27 and 11 and just absolutely carries them. Do you think he has that type of season in him?
I don't think it's this season, but I think it's seasons to come. Like, I could see it next season. I don't think it could happen this season just because he is out west and that he's going to have some tough matchups. I think it will happen someday, but not this season. I just don't think it aligns well this season.
All right. Well, my Western Conference predictions, the top end for me is pretty much the same as you. My back end is a little bit different. One, I'm actually going to go with Utah. I think this is their season to win the West, if there's ever a season for them. I do like Phoenix. I think they're still a really good team, but Chris Paul is only getting older. I think there's questions about whether he can stay healthy. So also I think the DeAndre Ayton contract situation is kind of, I feel like they just got to pay him, and and NBA guys like to get paid. So there's a question of whether, DeAndre Ayton will not cause a scene, right? So Utah 1 for me. 2, I'm going to go with Phoenix. I think they're really still the team to beat, but I do think Utah will just win the conference this year. I think Phoenix is going to take a step back just a little bit. I think Chris Paul will probably miss 10, 15 games this season, just rest and maintenance and small injuries. So accounting for that, I'll take them at 2. I think Denver goes 3. For Denver, it's going to be a weird dynamic because you pretty much just paid MPJ to be the guy scoring for you, and Jamal Murray's coming back. And I don't think Jamal Murray's a very good point guard. I think he's a very good scorer, just in general, just scoring the basketball. He's very talented. But it'll be interesting to see how he gets everyone involved. Obviously, Jokic is the best passing big man of all time. But it'll be interesting to see how Jamal Murray handles this offense outside of what Jokic does for him, right? 4, I'm going to take the Lakers. I think any team that LeBron is on, you really can, you can't expect them to not finish top 4 or 5. 5, I'm going to take the Dallas Mavericks. Like you said, Luka, MVP candidate. I do think that there is some concern with his supporting cast, but I think he's good enough to carry a team that high. 6, I'm going to take the Portland Trailblazers. I think they're a little bit better than Golden State all around. 7, I'm going to take Golden State. In 8, I think the Clippers are going to be fighting with Houston and San Antonio and New Orleans for the 8 spot, honestly. And like I said, I think Houston could take it. That's a hot take of mine. That's not what I'm going to predict. I will say Clippers 8 just because they have a great bench. They have Paul George. They could keep the course, but I think the Clippers are going to struggle this year without Kawhi Leonard for sure. And New Orleans are not going to be without. Just New Orleans is a weird team because Zion and Brandon Ingram don't have much help, and they're going to be out without Zion for a little bit. And I also question their coaching staff. So I don't really see them making the playoffs yet. And Memphis, I don't see making the playoffs yet. And San Antonio is always a threat to sneak in at the 8 or 7 seed because Greg Popovich is that good. But I will take the Clippers at the 8 seed.
Yeah, I do think the Clippers are going to struggle without Kawhi. But from what I saw of Paul George in the playoffs without Kawhi there, he looked really good on his own as the sole star there. And we really haven't seen that since, what was it, 4 years now since he got traded to Oklahoma?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he showed that he can do it, but it's going to take a lot out of him, I think. I do think there's not going to be time for that load management as they'd love to do with the Clippers. But I do think the West is going to be fun as usual. That back half will be down to like one of the last days.
Yeah, I do agree.
With season prediction done, there's a couple questions universally going around in the NBA. And the biggest one right now is Kyrie Irving. He's not getting the shot. He's against the COVID vaccine. So at first they were like, hey, you're not be playing in home games because it's not, if New York State, you need the shot. Nets are like, now you're not going to play at all because we just don't want to deal with that. So how much is no Kyrie going to affect these Brooklyn Nets?
Kyrie, I don't remember who I saw this from. I think it was an article I read. He's not against the COVID vaccine per se. He's against people losing their job over the vaccine mandate. This isn't a political podcast, so we're not going to get into that. Whatever you feel is right is right. You can't change people's opinions. But him not playing is huge. James Harden, they didn't have to convince him to take the shot. They pretty much told him to go to the strip club, you gotta take a shot. And he was like, all right, cool, I'll take it. Not gonna miss out on that.
Yeah.
James Harden is very easy to convince him. KD, he's KD. He ain't gonna miss basketball. Kyrie, he uses his platform, uses it to be the voice for the voiceless. I respect him, but this isn't negatively affecting the team. There's no way that it's not. It's going to be a distraction all season. I do think he'll end up being vaccinated. I think he'll come back at some point. I don't know when, though. That's the thing with Kyrie. It really just depends on when Kyrie decides that his stance is over with, right? You don't know if that's going to be next week. You don't know if it's going to be the week before the playoffs. So I think it's going to affect them greatly. This caps their potential from like a 65 win team, something more in line with the Bucks, to where the Bucks could finish above them. If they had a full season of Kyrie, I don't think anyone would question them finishing first.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be really big for the Nets just because we saw Kyrie step up a lot last year as the own guy there. They still have Harden, KD, and KD, I think, is one of the best offensive players of all time. But what helps them is they do have a good point guard, and Patty Mills would fill in. So, like you said, they may not be a 65-win team. Could they get 60? Maybe. I think it all depends on the team's health overall.
Yeah.
But without Kyrie, I think their chances of making an NBA Finals is very tough.
Because, we saw it last year. Obviously, the Nets were banged up, but, no one expected the Bucks to win that series.
Yeah. And KD, he put on great performances, but his teammates gave him no help when he needed it. I don't think they made a shot on their own at one. But another question coming into the season, LeBron, after a game, had a question about the chemistry of the team, saying, he was saying that chemistry is going to be a real issue for them right now, just because it's their first time playing with each other. Do you think this is true or is it an excuse?
Well, I think it's true. They added a lot of new pieces, although they did add Dwight Howard back, who I think, should have stayed there, um, and Rondo. So, but this is definitely teetering on that line of being an excuse and also a real problem. I do think it's a real issue because the formula for LeBron teams has always been shooters and let LeBron do his thing. This team doesn't have a whole lot of shooting, and they're very old. But the collective basketball IQ on this team is probably the highest maybe of all time on any team. Like, they have great players who have played on some of the greatest teams in NBA history all the way around. But there's going to be a growing pains for this team for sure. Learning how to play, learning how their play styles are going to match. Obviously, the Lakers the last couple of years have been a defensive stalwart. That's kind of how they've won their games. But is it going to be, this team's old. Are they going to be able to keep up that physical, just grit and grind style game for that long? Even Memphis at the end of their run with that play style, they ran out of gas and they weren't as good as everyone expected them to be. So definitely growing pains for this team, and it could definitely end up being a major issue.
I think it can be an issue. I do think it's a little bit of an excuse just because they've all played together before, and like Rondo's played with LeBron, Dwight, Anthony Davis. He's not played with Carmelo, but Carmelo and Russ have played together. They've all played together on the Olympics mostly. Anthony Davis is going to be the main part. If he's healthy, I think this is where they thrive. LeBron's going to have a typical LeBron season, I think, maybe a little bit of drop in production just because he might not be handling the ball as much. But Westbrook, we might see not thrive at all. We saw 9 turnovers in preseason in one game. I do think this could be a bad season for him.
That's what I was going to say. I think Westbrook is the biggest affected player here. This team doesn't really fit him at all. I think this will be the best defensive team he's ever played on, and I think he can get up for that, and he can definitely help them defensively. But offensively, his game does not mesh well with any of them.
And, Melo, he's up there in age. I don't know how much he's going to produce on a nightly basis. They're going to make him a spot-up shooter. They did it with Kevin Love. I think he's going to have kind of like that role as a 4. But
it'll be interesting. I think he'd be better off the bench. Leading a second unit offensively along with like Rondo.
But Tucker just got hurt too, so there goes depth for the bench.
Yeah, this team is just I'm not gonna bet against their collective IQ. Like I said, I think I have them 4, right?
Yeah.
So it's a LeBron team. They're very smart. It's the type of team he likes to play with outside of the lack of shooting. But we've seen them win with that already. We keep saying it, but we've seen them win with it. So it'll just
it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Next question I have is, which team's going to break out this year? We kind of really touched on the Bulls. Do you think that's going to be the team that breaks out the most?
Yeah, I think the Bulls are the biggest breakout candidate. I also think that the Hornets, like you said, are a big breakout candidate. Out west, I'd have to say they're not a breakout candidate, but they're a team that everyone's sleeping on for some reason, and it's Golden State. Like, a healthy Curry and Clay
is dominant.
You can't stop them.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of rookies, but honestly, that might be a good thing. Like, we haven't seen Golden State with this much depth, even if it is rookie depth, in a while. Like, those last couple teams that they had with KD, they were barren.
Yeah.
It was the 5 starters and whoever they could pick up off the street. They have some legit players on the bench. They're rookies, but they're legit. So I think Golden State's being underrated heavily.
Yeah, I can see that just because Clay hasn't played in 2 years now. I can see why teams are doing that, or fans and others are doing that. But I think, like we said earlier, the Bulls are the biggest breakout candidate just because of the talent they added in the past year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's gonna be great for Zach LaVine to not have to shoulder so much of the
Yeah.
load.
And then the next question I had, we already kind of talked about it, is does Kyle Lowry make Miami better?
Yes, resounding yes. Yeah, we pretty much already talked about it, but that team just got so much better with Kyle Lowry.
And then my last question is, can the Suns make it back to the finals?
I do not believe so. I think Father Time, this will be the year that it finally catches up to Chris Paul. I do have them winning over 50 games. I think they'll make it to a deep playoff run. Going to the conference finals would not shock me, but I don't see it with this team. I think they struggled to beat the Lakers they beat the Lakers because Anthony Davis got injured, pretty much what I'm trying to say. And I think with a fully healthy Lakers team, I don't know if they beat them, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know if they beat them. I think they got lucky in their playoff run, and they're going to need a massive step forward from DeAndre Ayton on the offensive side of the ball to go back to the finals, I think, because I don't think Chris Paul can do that again.
Yeah, I do think Cameron Payne might be in for a good season. We saw him step up. I don't think he'll be starting anytime soon, but he could be sixth man of the year if Chris Paul, like we said, Father Time catches up to him. He could have to fill in and play that role.
Yeah,
And
I
then
agree.
I do think, I love their supporting cast of Jay Crowder and Ayton. I love that, the power forward center. I think Jay Crowder is very underrated for what he does for a team. And then Devin Booker's Devin Booker. He's gonna play great. You know where you're gonna get out of him every night. Cameron Johnson is a wild card in my opinion. We've seen him have great games. We've seen him have really bad games.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on how he matures as a player. I do think he has a bright future in the league. And like you said, Ayton with contracts, are they going to pay him or are they not? That could be a huge factor. Saric, I like off the bench, but did he tear his ACL in the finals?
He did have some sort of big injury, but I don't remember what it was.
I don't know if he's going to be there or not, but it's going to be hard for this team to make the finals just because last year they kind of got every break going up to the finals.
They
got
didn't.
injured.
Yeah.
They took on that Denver team who was out Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter doesn't know any form of defense.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then, honestly, if the Clippers have Kawhi, that goes to a game 7, I think.
Yeah.
That could go either way. I know we've disagreed on Kawhi before, but
I think he's the most overrated player in basketball, in my humble opinion. He gets the most breaks and most passes out of any superstar in basketball. He's asked to play 50% of the games.
I didn't like what he did in free agency of opting out and getting a huge deal. I think if you want to win, you're going to have to take a pay cut, and it wasn't even going to be that bad of a pay cut.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a topic for another day. We'll leave it at that.
It is.
Any other thoughts on the NBA that you don't think we've touched before opening tip-off?
I do want to say how ridiculous my Rockets pick is because they're actually projected to win like 19 games this season. But I don't see, like, the Thunder have SGA and who else?
The torture chamber.
Yeah, but I just feel like the Rockets have
they have the talent. They have the
start. Not even the talent. Yeah, they just have the offense.
Yeah.
They have the offensive capabilities. If they could just pull some games out of nowhere.
That's all you need.
And I feel like, they could finish higher than the Kings, maybe the Spurs. Like, people are underrating the Rockets. Okay, they're underrating them.
I agree. I think Jalen Green's going to be a great player.
I do agree. But yeah, I think we covered everything, man. It was nice to be back.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you back for another week. I thought it went great. Just in time for the Sox game. Me and Johnny are, we're here. We're watching at Fenway on the big screen behind me.
Smart Park. Yeah, Smart Park there.
Yeah, I got Smart Park. I Smart Parked it in, Smart Parked it out. All around, right here in Boston.
Enjoy the game, my friend. I will maybe see you next week.
Yeah, we'll definitely be back together soon for another episode. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of The Locker Room. We wish you all a wonderful week and come back next week for some more NBA takes, NFL picks, maybe some fantasy football advice. Who knows?
Peace.
Peace.